Have you ever seen Reddit, Am I the Arsehole?
Yeah. I don't frequent it, but I know what it is.
Yeah. And see, like, the premise of it's like you put up a situation, anything.
Basically, someone is being an arsehole and then want the internet to tell them that they're not being an arsehole.
Or potentially they're not. And realistically, that's the whole gist of today's story. We're going to need a bit of backstory to it because the situation itself is basically just someone sort of exploited the rules of a competition. And realistically, it wasn't necessarily against the rules to begin with, but the whole freak out has to do with like team rivalries and everything. So our story goes all the way back to 1999, before this game that today's story is about, which it's an esport.
Oh.
What esport do you think we're talking about today, James?
What esport? Well,
it's near and dear to my heart.
Knowing you, someone that frequents IM Melbourne, I'm going to say CSGO.
Yeah, well, there was one IM Melbourne, there was IM Sydney, but yes. And technically IM Melbourne was CS2. So this is how far back we're going. We're not even going just back to Counter-Strike Go. We're going all the way back to 1999 where the game began to explain some rivalries.
Hello and welcome to the wild world of sports. This is the podcast where three friends sit down, crack a couple beers, and go on a journey to try and discover the wildest story from the world of sports. My name is James Whybrow.
I'm James's brother Ben, no relation.
And I'm Carlin, today's story spokesman.
Oh, spokesman's good.
Yes.
Team captain. What is the leader of a CSGO team called?
Coach?
Well, IGL is like a common one in video games, like in-game leader. But then you've got you do have coaches too. So I guess it sort of just depends. It's a little bit like how a manager and a coach can be different in football terms, depending on what team it is.
Okay, all right. So we're in the world of CSGO, and
we're in the world of CSGO. Well, original Counter-Strike. So how much do you guys know? Because there's different versions of Counter-Strike. So it does take a little bit of explaining this, because we've got some rivalries that bring up the emotions that make this whole story super wild in the first place.
Since you brought up Reddit at the start, I don't know a whole lot about CS and, well, just video games in general. Not really my thing. I know I play a bit, but
Lego Star Wars?
Yeah, Lego Star Wars. That's one of the goats. But since you brought up Reddit, can you give us a TLDR of CS?
It's like two teams, like terrorists and counter-terrorists trying to
plant a bomb and
yeah,
try
and
to
there's
blow
two
it up.
different sides.
Counter-Strike's the one where we had those MLG edits and like FaZe Clan. Smoke weed every day.
That was mostly, I would say, like Modern Warfare 2, like COD.
I remember the like.
It probably
shooting
seeped
through the
into
smoke.
Counter-Strike a
I don't
bit.
know what the maps are called. One where you're like at a nuclear power plant.
Yeah, there's one called Nuke.
Oh,
A nuclear power plant.
Tunnels or secret, because no one ever used
Yes.
that part of the map or something.
I don't exactly know what secret. I guess, it just was kind of, no one looked over there.
But it's that game, like the really mechanically skillful shooter.
Yeah. So, and it never really changed from that. So that even in that mod form, it was essentially the same game it is today, but it's evolved and has several different releases now. The important thing, though, that starts our rivalries is so originally it was a mod, right? Like for Half-Life, which is a game made by Valve. Then Valve bought the game from the mod developers, had them on board to develop the game still, but then they made Half-Life 2. So they had a follow-up game, and with their new engine, they were like, okay, well, let's make a new Counter-Strike, and we'll call it, they had the new Source engine for Half-Life 2. The new Counter-Strike was called Counter-Strike Source. Came out 2004. Didn't really pop as much as they would have liked.
Bit of a flop.
So they added gambling.
Well, no, actually. So not yet. I see where you go, because Counter-Strike, yeah, okay.
You open
CS:GO,
cases.
Yeah. That's not in CSS.
Okay.
Not in Counter-Strike Source.
We're getting ahead of
So
ourselves.
this is why it was such a flop. You're right. But it wasn't so much a flop, but it was a more casual game. It didn't really hit for the esports scene. So Counter-Strike, the original mod, was made as like a standalone game now, and in its latest version, it's become known as 1.6, which is like the version number. So that's CS 1.6, and I might refer to it as that in the future, but we don't really have to talk about it much more anymore anyway. So there's two scenes going at the same time for a while. There's the old CS 1.6, and then there's CSS, because not everyone wanted to switch over. Like, sort of like the NFL, I guess, like before they merged.
Uh-huh.
How it's like, it's pretty much the same game, realistically. One's sort of newer. That's a bit different to the NFL sort of situation. But eventually Valve's like, look, we got to release a game that everyone gets onto, right? And they want to unite everyone. I guess the gambling helped, so they did put case. That's probably why everyone plays the game. Our first team that comes into this story is called Ninjas in Pajamas. They're often referred to as NIP, so I'll call them NIP. It's a lot quicker. They basically decided in 2012 in August, which I think is pretty close to the release of the game of Counter-Strike Go. They decided, we'll make a team from some CSS stars and some CS 1.6 stars from both scenes and just get them playing the game as soon as possible. And that's going to be really important because it basically makes them the original best team in the game.
The OGs.
Did they wear pajamas?
No. So for that first little bit of the game, they went on a 87-0 record.
Holy
of maps. So they just won. This is on LAN. So I think online they lost maybe a couple, but on LAN, which is the important thing because it's like, connection's the best. Internet's not the best back then.
And so you win the map by planting the bomb?
So in CSGO, it's just as important because it's different in Counter-Strike 2 now. 16, if you get to 16 rounds, it's like best of 30. So if it's 16-14, you win. But if you get to 15, the other team gets to 15, you go to overtime, etc. But yeah, basically, you're trying to get to 16 rounds, more or less.
And you win by, like, killing the other team or making the bomb blow up or stopping the bomb? How do you...
If the entire other team is eliminated, you win the round. If you're the counter-terrorist, your job is to not let the terrorist plant the bomb. And if they plant the bomb, defuse the bomb. You have to, if they've planted the bomb, you have to kill all the terrorists and then defuse the bomb. But if they haven't planted the bomb, killing them is just fine. With terrorists, obviously the CTs have no bomb to plant, so you can just kill all of them and you win the round. But each map as well, which it's important in the story too, because this is different to normal sports, is because you've got the two different sides, like counter-terrorist and terrorist, different maps will favour certain teams. So some are more defensive based and some are more attacking based. So it's easier for one side or another.
That's a bit like sports. You got a home ground advantage. Here in
Canberra,
the Raiders always play in the cold weather.
It's a bit different because it's like at halftime you switch and then
Right.
So it's like
are they
it's like playing
mechanically different at all? Like, are there players that are better at playing the counter-terrorist team versus the terrorist
there
team?
even is so the terrorists will get like an AK-47, which most pros would use as their standard gun in the game. On the counter-terrorist side, you get either an M4A4 or an M4A1S, and
so
they
you get
do
different
less
guns
damage
depending on the side you're on.
Yes.
Okay.
So the important difference is an AK-47 can shoot someone in the head with one bullet and kill them, but the counter-terrorist can't do that. So there are things that skew the sides either way, but also obviously the objective is part of that. And this is the early release of a game, so it's not particularly balanced. Not all the maps are super great.
Buggy.
A little bit buggy. That's really important when you say that because we could be talking about a bug. Eventually, NIP lose to Virtus Pro, which ends their 87-0 streak.
So they had a nip slip, you could say.
They did have a nip slip. They lost to Star Ladder April 5th, 2013. But they're still the best team in Counter-Strike at this stage. So just to mention as well, when I got into Counter-Strike, one of my favorite players, Markov, he played for Na'Vi. Na'Vi's a really big team now still. It was back then as well.
Isn't it the indigenous people in Avatar?
It is, but this is Natus Vincere. So it's like some Latin for, I don't know, something about victory.
Makes sense.
They moved over to... So NIP, for example, moved over in August of 2012. Markov and the rest of Na'Vi came over from CS 1.6 in 2012 in November. So they had a couple months on them. That's why NIP sort of became the best team as well. After they've lost this 2013 game, this is when most of the teams are pretty much in Counter-Strike Go now, and Valve starts doing what's called the majors, which are like the biggest tournaments in Counter-Strike. And I guess it's important to note as well, like how professional Counter-Strike works, and other esports are similar. It's more like Formula One than like football or something, because it's not like a league that you're just playing and it's the same competitions every time. It's like different, and it could change. Like one day the Singapore Grand Prix might not be in the circuit of like things that they do.
Kind of like golf. I'm thinking more of like you have the Masters, which is a major.
I'm thinking tennis. Well, you've got the
tennis,
big
yeah.
majors.
Yeah,
like the
tennis is
Australian
a good
Open
one, and then
stuff.
you've got like the ATP tournaments.
Yeah, and
all
some of
that.
the big teams, big tennis players go, yeah, I'm not going to rock up for this.
That's in fact that's exactly it. And nowadays as well in Counter-Strike they've got a Grand Slam thing similar to a tennis. So when you win certain big tournaments, once you win 5 of them, you win a whole Grand Slam.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So actually tennis is a great example. Now it's starting to heat up. Valve's gotten into it. They're doing the majors, which are like super serious in terms of esports, because for the teams they get stickers in the game for a Valve-sponsored major, because it's run by the developers. They get little capsules, and all the money goes to the teams. You actually win. You earn more money from getting to a major and finishing in last place just because you get the sticker capsules than the prize money for coming first at this stage. Which, to note, at that stage, the prize money for a Counter-Strike major is like $100,000. So it's not particularly a lot. Like, it's a fair bit, but that's like the biggest tournament you could win in Counter-Strike, and you win. Your team wins $100,000.
Is this? I know it's Counter-Strike's professional now. At this time, is it professional?
Well, there are professional teams, yeah. Because like Ninjas and Punjabs and stuff, they would be just playing Counter-Strike, and that's it. That's their only job. So those guys are professionals. But obviously, a lot of the scene is going to be semi-professional and has other jobs. Now the majors had started, like they'd been announced, and there's some coming up in 2013. This is when it started a new trend for NIP. So we'll start with the first major, which is a bit of a segment in our story. Obviously, NIP are going into it heavy favourites to win the whole thing. They're like the guys that just won 87 maps in a row. People are thinking NIP are going to win. Now, the next team introduced to our story, which is going to be the main team, basically. They're the one that the scandal revolves around. Fnatic. They were sort of second fiddle to NIP. But that's in terms, because NIP, importantly, are a Swedish team. So all their players are Swedish.
So are you saying it right, or is it like NIP?
NIP. Ninjas in pajamas.
We're playing
Pyjamas.
CSGO.
So they're Swedish, and Fnatic also Swedish. So Fnatic are like the second best team in Sweden. They were probably more of a big deal back in CS 1.6, but they sort of came over to the game late, didn't quite get their roster together. It's a bit more washed. NIP's gotten their roster together better. They've already had a few extra months in CSGO. So NIP are a bit better.
So
and
Sweden are just the best team at CS, or best country
NIP
at
is
CSGO.
At the beginning, yeah. Denmark's a pretty good shout. They had a bit of an error. France often comes into it, has a bit of an error. The French come into this story a little bit, actually.
Oh, Ben, your favourite.
Love hating the French.
Good. Well, we'll do a bit of hating the French. In fact, the French are crucial. They are the one that are exploited against. So, anyway, NIP, the best. Fnatic live in their shadow. Basically, NIP have come into this tournament, which is DreamHack Winter 2013. Fnatic, expected to make the playoffs, maybe, but nothing special. But NIP is going to win. That's what anyone thinks in this tournament. And we make it all the way to the end. Oh, actually, before we get there, because we're going to add these people later, they're important to the story. This Fnatic team is not the same Fnatic team that we're going to have when we talk about the exploit.
Dun, dun, dun.
There are two players which were introduced now. So NIP in the quarterfinals, and they're way to the finals in this. So they make it to the finals. NIP versus LGB, which LGB is like the third best Swedish team. So it's funny, like everyone's Swedish in this competition, but it's just these three teams, I swear.
Just happen to be three of the best.
They just happen to be three teams that are really good. Yeah, the Swedes were really good at Counter-Strike.
Maybe I'm remembering wrong, but Did I read something that Sweden's got one of the best internet upload download speeds in the world or something like that?
We're just buttering them up now. They're not paying us. If they sponsor us, then we can.
We've
then we
got some
can talk
IKEA
nice
furniture in here.
Yeah. So LGB in the quarterfinals, they actually give NIP a hot run for their money. Take it to 3 maps. So they're best of 3 in the playoffs. The maps are Dust 2, Train, and Inferno. Not going to mean a lot to you guys, but that's fine. So LGB actually win Dust 2, and importantly, we've got our first protagonist, I guess, or villain, depends.
Antagonist.
Antagonist.
Frenchman.
Well, we'll decide. Arsehole. Is he the arsehole?
Oh, okay.
Olafmeister is his name. He carries in this first map, so he gets 28 kills. LGB managed to beat NIP 16-14. So like I said before, that's really close. If NIP had won one more round, then it would have been 15-15. They would have gone to overtime. But they didn't. They lost 16-14. NIP win the next map, Train 9-16, and then NIP take out Inferno 7-16. So LGB fall apart. They lose after that.
Is 7-16 a competitive game, or is that kind of a wash?
No, they're sort of falling apart off that. But this is just it. Like LGB is the 3rd best team in Sweden. Like they're not as good. They would be guys that are plumbers at home and stuff.
They landed a punch on the
Giants.
Giants. That's commendable enough.
Yeah, so they did a great job by getting a map off them. That's huge. These are guys that went 87 maps without losing. So that's Olafmeister, who carried in that first bit. Then there's also Krims, who's part of this story. Krims is another Swedish player on the team. He's also important in the story, but a little bit less important than Olafmeister. He's not quite the star that he is, but it's important because these 2 players are later going to go to Fnatic. So in the semi-finals, and this is another important set of characters to introduce, NIP play Very Games in the semi-finals. So Very Games was the French team, but it was like the remnants of the best French team. It was hard because they've come over from the old game. They're sort of trying to get the old guard together, and it sort of fell apart. But at this time, they were still threatening. It was the beginning of Counter-Strike Global Offensive, and it's the first major. Made it to the semis, but they fell to NIP 2-1. Then Fnatic got through pretty easy, beating a team called RCE and Complexity. It should have been a fairly easy, it was an easy side of the playoffs for them. And they've made it to the finals. So the French didn't make it in the end. It's NIP and Fnatic. So 2 Swedish teams, number 1, number 2. The maps Dust 2, Inferno, and Train. And the first map goes to Fnatic. So it's 16-14. So the important thing to note about this, like I said before, is the maps are sided, right? So NIP had won 12-3 at halftime. So once you play your first half, you play 15 rounds. So say you win every round in the first half, you get 15 rounds.
Yeah.
And then you just have to win what's called the pistol round at the start of the next half, and then you just win the game 16-0. So NIP managed to win 12 terrorist rounds on Dust 2, which it's a terrorist-sided map, losing 3. But then they switched sides. They actually only managed to pick up 2 rounds on the counter-terrorist side, and they threw the rest of those rounds and lost 16-14. So that's pretty impressive. Then NIP win Inferno pretty comfortably, 16-6. That's their map. They absolutely dominated. But then we get to the final map, and Fnatic win Train 16-2.
Damn.
So that sounds pretty crazy. At this time, Train was probably one of the most unbalanced maps, and Fnatic started on the counter-terrorist side.
So just luck of the draw for that one a bit.
A little bit. So at this time, it was a little bit BS. So Fnatic sort of got this whole underdog win in the first ever Counter-Strike major. But they weren't really recognized as being the best because obviously NIP was still the best, and they just sort of got lucky with the draw.
If you had to play them on an even map, you weren't going to win.
Yeah, so people felt, NIP is still the best, but Fnatic just got this upset win. And so time goes on through 2014. So that was 2013 was that major, sorry. But now we're going into 2014. NIP keeps succeeding, but in our next major, so 2014 is going to have 3 majors. The first one is Katowice, which is in Poland. They make it to the finals. They lose to Virtus Pro, which is I'll introduce this character. He's called like Pasha Biceps. He's like a famous player from this team. He's just like his whole character is just like he just pumps his biceps all the time.
So he's got big biceps.
Yeah, he's got big biceps. He's absolutely jacked. Anyway,
So that's all he does, CS and gym.
yeah, he's quite a character in the Counter-Strike community. It's hard to explain, but he's
I think I'm getting it.
Counter-Strike, yeah. So yeah, Virtus Pro again sort of get this upset win against Nip, but people go, but Nip is still the best. So this is where they start this trend of being like always the bridesmaid, never the bride, right? They're always making the major final, but they just can't win it. But then we get to the third ever Counter-Strike Global Offensive major. Well, just before we get there, actually, importantly to note is Fnatic start picking up some wins, just like here and there, but they're not doing particularly well at this stage. But right before the third major, they win a tournament or two. And then very importantly, they win a tournament against Nip. Not a particularly big one. It's like literally a no-name tournament. So like some random tennis comp.
Still, they're winning.
But they beat Nip. So like that's big, right? And that's like, yeah, like we told you, like we won that major fair and square. Like, yeah. At this stage as well, they've got those two new players from that team that took the LGB team that took the map off them that actually played pretty well. They've got Olaf Meister and Krims now. So now we're at the third major. Fnatic actually are looking like people are like, you know, people don't want Nip to win because Nip are the best. And you love to hate the best, I guess. So everyone's like, nah, we don't want Nip to win. Like Fnatic are the new guys that like they're hyping up. They do well. They make it to the final. So Nip beat the French, which are LDLC. So like I was saying before, very games after they got beat, actually, they sort of scrambled and started getting picked up by different organizations. Titan is one that picked up a lot of them, but this game in particular, actually, we got to mention because it's an important one somewhat for the rivalries versus Virtus Pro. So that's the team with the biceps guy. In the quarterfinals, LDLC, so the French team beat that Polish team that won the last major against Nip. So that's huge. You just beat the champions. But on the second map, Dust 2, one player called Kali, it's like Kqly, and so Pasha jokingly calls him Kukli, does this like jump shot that is just, it's like so cryptic. He jumps up, gets a headshot, wins them around, they get the defuse, like it was a clutch. Like a clutch means like, it was like, I don't know, against the odds, win.
I mean, clutch is universal, like in sport.
Yeah, I
think.
suppose.
You're not feeling the pressure and you perform at your best.
There's a bit of definition behind clutch, I suppose, in the game. But yeah, so it was like this huge thing. So also, that player ends up getting banned later, like VAC banned. So VAC banned.
Jump shot guy.
Yeah. So it's thought, it's not like we don't really know, but
This is
it's
a bit
thought
like
that he
Sergio.
might have been cheating, maybe, at this tournament. And
Aim
could he
hacks or something like that?
Yeah, well, like, because it's like, how did he hit that shot, right? It was a pretty unbelievable shot. And then is it a coincidence he gets banned for aim hacks straight after? The French end up losing to Nip anyway. They meet Fnatic in the finals, but they end up beating Fnatic 2-1. So Nip finally get their fairy tale ending. They've won a major. They're still, after that, performing. There's one more major that we get to before we get there. So this one we just had was Cologne. It was in August of 2014. The next one's going to be in November. And it's DreamHack Winter 2014, which is the next year on from the one that Fnatic won the first time.
Back to where it all began.
Back to where it all began.
2 years after the game release, right? Because it came out in 2012.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. Basically, after this Cologne one, where Fnatic have lost to Nip in the final, which as well, I've got the results here, like 11-16 to Nip first map, 16-8 to Fnatic second map, 13-16 to Nip last map. So it was pretty close. Like Fnatic could have won that. They were fired up and they're like, we want to beat Nip now. We're going to be the best Swedish team. And they got so into it. The next 15 competitions, they were at least in the semis in every single one of them, but they won 3/4 of them. So they're winning like everything now. And importantly as well, they're like beating their rivals and stuff. So they're beating LDLC, they're beating Nip and stuff. They're beating everyone. So Fnatic is just becoming the best team now, even though they didn't win the last major. They just lost to NIP. We get to DreamHack Winter 2014. LDLC, the French team, has sort of established itself now as the best French team. They're also fighting for this podium spot that NIP is sort of looking like it's about to leave. So Fnatic and LDLC, so the second best Swedish team and the best French team, are fighting to become the best team over this like other Swedish team. So we come into this last major, and LDLC had also been doing well. They'd come second quite a lot of times, and they'd won a lot of competitions that Fnatic wasn't at, or just didn't verse them in and avoided them by losing in the semis or something. But they couldn't beat Fnatic, so they actually played them once or twice, and they couldn't beat them. So we've got a bit of a rivalry going. So Fnatic are now the guys that, and they've actually been dominating for like half a year. So they've become, like I was saying, how NIP was a bit like the villain, and they're like, nah, we don't.
People have gotten bored with Fnatic dominance.
Yeah,
they're like,
change. Oh, nah, maybe we want LDLC. Like maybe we want the French because they're like a bit more of the underdog, right?
I don't want to play with you anymore.
Yeah, they've just given up.
You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
It's true. And that's literally how it works in sports, like most of the time.
Or keep living as the villain long enough that you become the hero again.
Go from a heel turn, from hero to heel, then heel back to hero.
Like Brady.
I don't know, a lot of people still don't like him.
Yeah, but, everyone hated the dominance of the Pats, and then comes back and beats Mahomes.
Yeah, for another team in the NFC, and shows everyone that, see, it wasn't just with Bill. But we digress out of... I won't be mean to say real sport. We'll get back to the
I thought the spill word there was going to be real sports.
Oh, well.
It's a sport.
Just don't get it.
But that's what we're learning.
Anyway, DreamHack Winter, we're almost there. We're almost to the end of our story. So this is when the exploit does happen. But Fnatic had sort of been... So Fnatic had been saving basically a special surprise, they were saying. They're like, look, we've got some strats. They're like,
secret move.
People are asking them, like, are you going to win the major this time? Like, you're so dominant. You just were so close against NIP last time. Are you going to do it? And they're like, we'll see what happens, Like, they had something up their sleeves, but they
never made us use our secret move.
They weren't willing to budge. They weren't telling anyone. And if we look at the group stage, you can actually see it started well for the French. So they've made it out of the groups. Ninjas and Pajamas still make it through, but second in the group. But then we go on to the incident. So our first map is Dust 2. It's LDLC versus Fnatic in the finals, in the quarterfinals. So first map's Dust 2. LDLC wins 16-10. So they take the first map. Second map, Cache. Fnatic win 8-16. They take it straight back the other way. So we're going to map 3. And these are the two teams that are like, whoever wins this, like this is the finals, like, and whoever wins this is going to go versus NIP in the grand final and claim the best spot. So this is like, who wins this last map is really important. And it's not looking crash hot for Fnatic, who lose basically the first half. So they're on the T side, the terrorist side. Overpass, which is this last map, is a very counter-terrorist sided map because it's just been released and it's not balanced whatsoever. But LDLC pull off 13-2 in the first half. So Fnatic have basically 2 rounds that they can lose and still be able to make it to a tie to get to overtime or something. If they lose any more than that, if they lose 3 rounds, it's over. So they're freaking out.
Sounds understandable.
Do you like?
You've dug yourself a big hole.
What do you think? We've gotten this far. What do you think's happening to Fnatic? Do you think they're going to pull through?
It sounds like they've got a trick up their sleeve to help them pull through. The odds are against them because...
The odds are very much against them.
Even in sport, when there's a huge advantage to one team, and you get that advantage in, say, the second half of this game or in any game of sport.
They had us in the first half.
Not going to lie. But you've still got your back against the wall, and the other team knows they only have to get a couple of wins or a couple of goals or points or whatever it might be to end the game there. You've got to be perfect for the other team.
I'm digging in the vault of my limited knowledge of Counter-Strike, but if you lose the pistol round, you get more money. Whoever wins that round gets more money to buy better guns.
Yeah.
So then you're more likely to win the following rounds until the other team has enough money to then do an even round again.
Yeah, a quick little run on economy, because that's actually, I suppose, important to talk about the stakes of this comeback. At the start of each half, you have a pistol round. You've got $800, which you can buy. Usually people will buy a bit of armor without a helmet and a pistol, maybe if they can afford it. But a lot of the time, well, the economy's sort of changed now, but yeah, it's like you'll have one team lose, and then they'll lose the next 3 rounds, say, because the other team just has better guns and they've won the round already. Yeah, so that first round is really important. So if you can imagine, if you're 13-2, you've got to win that pistol round.
And it's a 50-50 on the pistol round, equal
because if it's
machinery,
14-2, and now you're going to go into the next round, they're going to be able to buy actual guns, and you can't buy anything.
And you said this is a new map that's just been added, so the balance is terrible.
Yeah, it's been there for a couple of months. The map is pretty unbalanced. But what makes it even more unbalanced is a little trick that Fnatic pull out of their sleeve. So our 2 new players that are on the team, Olofmeister and Crims, hop onto near the counter-terrace spawn. So that it's they're counter-terrace half now. So they've just lost their T side pretty miserably. But now they're on the favoured side. So realistically, you'd say, okay, they'd probably win the pistol round or something because they're on the better side. But how can they win all those rounds without losing 3 rounds? Like, that's pretty hard. Like, you could see it being close, but it looks like LDLC have it. But Olofmeister and Crims are just hanging around in spawn, and the casters are wondering, like, what are they doing? Like,
looks like they've given up.
So what is a caster?
Sorry, the people just
Commentating.
The commentators, yeah.
We're casters.
Yeah.
Podcasters.
They're just confused. They're like, what are they doing in the spawn? They start hopping on each other's heads, doing this weird boost in the corner of like the spawn, and they don't know what's going on. No one's seen this before. They hop up basically it's important to note, onto like what's like a glitched like pixel that like is invisible but just sticking out, and so they can like sit on it, but you wouldn't have thought you'd ever be able to get there. And when they're sitting on this pixel, they can see, like, this map is overpass, and the spawn is right up, I guess, on the top of the overpassy bit, and then the rest of the map is lower elevation, sort of, as you come up to it. They can see pretty much everything. Like, not necessarily everything. There's bits they can't see through, like, walls and stuff, but they can, like, see most of the main entrances that the terrorists are coming from, and the terrorists would never look up there. And they didn't. They didn't look up at all. They had no idea what was going on. And Fnatic won the next 14 rounds in a row. And they won the map 16-13.
What were the casters doing? Surely, how long does it take for them to start saying that this is an abomination? They're cheating. This isn't fair. Because it sounds like...
goes against the spirit of the game.
Yeah.
It's fantastic you say that, James. Because realistically, they and it's great you bring that up too, Ben, because I guess that's what I'm here to discuss, because this is what's so wild about it, is it sort of was just understood that it was kind of okay, because there are other sort of pixel walking glitches that were used in the game. In fact, there were others that were used by both teams in the exact same game that are just accepted, that everyone knows about. But this one, no one knew about. Fnatic had it secret. It was up their sleeve. They didn't tell anyone about it. So they've shown it to the world for the first time. But is that unfair that only they knew about it? Technically, both boosts. So even this other one. So this other one is on like a stack of logs in this one part of the map. Both teams used it on like the other side of the map. I guess that one's fine, maybe. I don't know. But here's the first like announcement, basically. Map 3 Overpass originally ended 13-16 with Fnatic winning the map and the series. However, Team LDLC filed a complaint against pixel walking, suggesting that Fnatic had performed a boost that was against the rules. I'll not read the rest of it just for a second. So they sort of go to bed that night. This is the quarterfinals. We've got semis tomorrow. Everyone's gone to bed, but this stuff's happening late at night. And it's like they've put in this complaint, and...
both teams think they're going to the semis the next day.
Well, DreamHack decides, okay, look, fair enough. Maybe technically pixel walking is against the rules. Let's replay the second half, is what they decide. But then they discover that this other boost that the players had used, like on both teams, like I mentioned on the logs, they're like, well, that's actually a pixel walking boost as well. And both teams had used it. So they just decided, okay, no one can use any pixel walking boost anymore. We'll replay the entire map. And they decide this, and everyone's like, oh, okay. So I guess we're replaying the map now.
So when you say they decide, the organization?
Yeah, it's a DreamHack, the organizers of the tournament.
I hate to say this, but I feel like the French team is being stitched up here a little bit.
Well,
Wow.
and good you say that as well, because everyone was furious. A lot of the public at this stage, like, so I remember watching this when I was into Counter-Strike. I was pretty fuming too. Like, everyone wanted to hate Fnatic, right? Because they were just the best. And it's like, you don't they cheesed it, they had a secret boost and it's against the rules. And because the other boost was against the rules, we hate them. So everyone was angry. And if they had won that replay and they'd gone on, everyone would have hated them. So they decided to...
You're supposed to be the best team. If you can't win playing fair,
you
don't deserve to win.
So they decided, look, they sent out an apology and they forfeit the replay. So LDLC then managed to go on and beat NIP in the final and become the next sort of best team for the minute. But the story doesn't really end there. That's the end of this wild bit per se. But because the whole thing that makes it so wild is the rivalries. We'll just carry on until what happens after. So LDLC become really good. They've just won that major. They get bought by another organization called Envious. But it's the same team, pretty much. Maybe one or two players change. But they're the main dominant French squad. And so they're going into this next major going, cool, we've got to win this next major. NIP are sort of fading into obscurity now. They've won their major. Their players have been around for ages. They were pros in the old games. Now they've come over to Counter-Strike. They've been dominating for a couple of years, but, starting to fall off. They get to this next major, Katowice 2015. Fnatic makes it through to the final, so they're proving their worth. The French make it through to the semi-finals against NIP. NIP actually beats them 2-0. They absolutely smoke them. And NIP gets into the final with Fnatic, where they actually go really close. So this next major after, NIP just makes themselves still relevant. And it's sort of another fairy tale story that could be its whole own thing, is how this team has managed to make so many grand finals in a row without winning any of them except for one.
That's pretty brutal. There's a lot of sports that have that story, and everyone's just brutal.
But Fnatic gets the best of them this time, 16-14 Dust 2, 10-16 Cash, then 16-13 Inferno. So it's really close. NIP could have done it. They could have come back. The next major of that year, Cologne 2015, you actually get a rematch with the French. So this time they're called Envious, but we get that rematch of that famous quarterfinals, and Fnatic proved to be the better side, absolutely smoke them 2-0. That being said, the first map did go to overtime. So like I said, if it gets 15-15, then you have some extra rounds, which Fnatic won all of them, 1-9, 10-15. And then they won the next map, 16-7. So that's pretty much the end of the tale. But yeah, it's are they the arseholes? That's the question. I remember feeling at the time, they should have forfeit. And yeah, you say the French are hard done by.
Well, I only think they're hard done by in the sense of they had the opportunity on the counter-terror side. If they knew about this glitch or boost, they could have used it, but they won without needing to. So I think if you replayed the second half and banned that, that's a fair outcome. But then you restart the whole game, I think that's unfair. But
then neither team would have had to use either side. So I guess in that case, the French would have been hard done by.
But I mean, because the French have already done the hard work in the first half when they didn't use the
But they were
air quote
using
cheat.
a different boost.
But
both teams used it.
Both teams used it. So if on this map, the overpass map, the counter-terrorist boost that Fnatic used, were they still able to be shot or killed from that spot? Or
no,
is that
actually, that's really important. I should have mentioned this. Both boost spots made you immortal.
What?
See
how do you leave that part out? That's a huge...
Because for the other spot that everyone uses, you're not really going to get shot at in that spot anyway. But then the spot that Olaf Meister jumped on, the Olaf boost, they didn't find him anyway. You can't see it. You just... wouldn't look there.
I think that then changes the calculus on it. Because if you go, here's a spot that's a little bit of an exploit that everyone knows about, and it gives you an advantage, but it's not game breaking.
Yeah.
But then here's one that means you're unkillable and you can shoot anyone anywhere practically. I think that then falls into the cheating
I think
category.
it did you could be killed, but from certain angles you couldn't be or something. So that's why it's an immortal bug. But
if it was just a point of view, you get a vantage point and you can then shoot off a point that people wouldn't expect. But from any point in your line of sight, you can also be shot. I think it's fine. Fnatic wins. But since there's an immortality aspect to it, cheating, that's not on.
What's the rule now at majors with these sort of pixel glitches?
So now they're just fully illegal, I think. Okay. I think they already were fully illegal.
Well, I think that says it all then.
Because I've seen videos before recommended of, here's how do you do this pixel perfect smoke grenade throw so it lands exactly where you want it to.
Yeah, and those are fine. So you can land a smoke on whatever you want. But then for some reason standing on it wasn't fine. I think maybe they just let it be fine because realistically, I don't know. It's like if you find the exploit, this is, again, it's like, are they the arsehole? It's like there's a fine line of like, should you exploit it? Should you just reveal it? Like, is it dog of them to have used it for competitive gain? Because their backs are against the wall. If they lost one round,
you're wrong for using it. But if you know it means you're unkillable or you're invincible in a practical sense, then that's just cheating. If you go, we found this thing, we've never had to play against it because it's our secret thing.
I think you were killable, but like, because from what I remember, you were killable. It's just certain angles that didn't really matter too much. So the killable bit didn't actually matter as much. Like they could have killed him if they found him, but they just never looked because it was such a weird spot.
I think I'd have to see the match to then have a proper opinion.
I would say this doesn't pass the pub test. You guys know the pub test of like you use it for if you went and asked 10 people in the pub, what would they say? I don't think this passes the pub test. I think
how does it work though? Like, what do you mean?
You go and ask a bunch of random people. I think more often than not, people would say, this is probably unfair. They probably broke the rules. Not technically, because I guess the rule wasn't written because they didn't know that this was an available thing to do. But you're exploiting something that gives you a game-breaking advantage.
So that's looking at them doing the boost. Sorry.
We'll put this on our socials at Wild World of Sport.
But those who are just listening, there is a player standing on another player's head in the game, giving them a height advantage to see over a wall.
This is what you can see.
Of the whole map.
Right.
So back like in that corner is like the terrorist spawn, and they'll come out this way and stuff. If they go up this way, then actually the boost doesn't really do anything. Unless they go through this middle bit here. If they go through that middle bit here, this guy can kill them. But if they all go through that way, they can't get shot at all.
If you know that is possible, can you counteract it through your strategy? And
yes.
Then legal. I think Fnatic's in the right.
Well, yeah. Because like it's hard. But if you knew where to look, yeah, you'd be able to counter it.
What is the history of learning these exploits? You said there's one on a lumber pile. Did one team use that before another team and went, whoa, hey, they can do this. Let's now do this as well. If it was, because F1, I'm an F1 fan. They have the rules, and as long as you don't break the rules, you can do whatever you want. If it's, hey, you haven't broken the rules, you've exploited them and bent them to breaking point, but they haven't broken, that's allowed. If that's in the spirit of CS2 competitively, I have no issue with it. But if it's hey, do the right thing, we're playing fairly, known glitches or exploits there accepted, but if you find new stuff, you have to make it public for everyone for fairness.
Yeah, there is no rules. Like if you discover something, like I guess it's like if you discover an exploit in football, right? Which is weird, sounds ridiculous to say, but I don't know. Maybe the first person that discovered long throw-ins, and they're like
getting billions of dollars from oil-rich countries. To
just
buy your way to success.
Having really good lawyers.
This has given me, I think this is an episode itself, but do you two know what bodyline is in Test cricket?
Yeah.
No.
body line, I'll probably do an episode on it later, but just to sum it up, it was in the Ashes back in the 30s when Don Bradman played that England couldn't get Bradman out. So what they did is they just pitched the ball up really short, so it was hitting Bradman at about head height every single delivery, and they would put the entire field around Bradman. So if he tried to play a shot, more often than not, he'd just hit it up in the air and they'd catch it and get him out, or they would injure him. And they actually did at one point and hit him on the head. And this actually led to a rule change in cricket where you can't have a certain amount of people in this certain area of the field to stop this destructive bowling. And it destroyed diplomatic relationships between Australia and England at the time.
Really?
Yeah, it was a huge thing.
It's a great series.
Okay, that's a
of
really good
bodyline.
story.
Yeah.
You should do that one.
But England didn't break a rule per se, but because of what they did, they implemented a rule because everyone knew looking at it, this is the wrong thing. And that's the vibe I'm getting from this. Everyone on the outside is going, there's not a rule that's been broken, but this is the wrong thing. Do you want to win this way either?
It's okay. So originally, I wanted to do Barbados versus Grenadine. If you know that story, like both teams are trying to lose because there was a rule where golden goal counted as 2 goals.
Oh,
So you went to extra time, but it was golden goal. But then the golden goal counted as 2 goals. And the important thing was, if Barbados won by 2 goals, they would actually go through 1 goal difference against Grenadine to the Grenada to the World Cup.
right.
So basically, they realize this. They're trying to win the game, but they're losing 1-2. No, they're winning 2-1. Sorry, and they realize 7 minutes before the end of the game that they can't get another goal, and there's 7 minutes left. But they're like, but hang on. If we just score in our own goal,
Go to extra time and win.
then we go through and they don't. So they can buy themselves extra time by just scoring in their own goal. So they score in their own goal. and obviously Grenada's just confused as heck about this.
Yeah.
They're like, what's going on? Then they realize what's happening and they go, oh. And so we kick back off. They're trying to defend both goals. See, I wanted to do a whole episode on this, but realistically, there's not too much more to the story. But yeah, it's just because of this ridiculous rule that, one team's decided to play totally unfairly, and all of a sudden, like, one team's defending both goals. But then they didn't actually, they could have tried to score a goal or something. It didn't make any sense. Somehow Barbados actually won that game. And, well, I guess that makes sense, because if they have 10 players trying to run at 1 goal,
Yeah.
and they've got 5 people in either goal, then yeah.
That's a ridiculous story.
My final ruling on Fnatic
Is
is
the arsehole?
Fnatic's the arsehole, but they're also right.
Well, while you're talking about final rulings, Ben, let's get our final ruling of where we think this story ranks right after we have a quick break. Welcome back to the wild world of sports. This is your first time listening to the show. This is the part where we try and rank the story on our wild or mild patent pending ranking system. Very state of the art. Got a whiteboard here in the studio. We're going to see where this story goes. Wild at the top, mild at the bottom. Carlin, you were the storyteller. You can have the first opinion on this one.
Look, if I'm honest, the whole reason I gave so much backstory is because I thought on its own, the situation isn't that crazy. Like, it's, just sort of finding a little sneaky exploit. But with everything that was going on, I feel like it's a little bit crazier. But I don't know. I think somewhere hovering around the Wizinator is my first impression. I feel like similar buzz.
Well, it's essentially, I think it boils down to this is a wild cheating story. And
Very scandalous.
yeah, and right now at the bottom, we have another wild cheating story. Is it wilder the way they cheated? Just talking about like the cheating part. I think 2 twins swapping is wilder than some guys exploiting a glitch in a video game map.
Yeah, and even the Wizinator. But then, it's just different, which is why it makes it hard. Because this is what I mean. The exploit on itself isn't that crazy. You're right. When you just put it as like, yeah, some guys hopped on ahead and had a really good, but it like they had a massive comeback too. Like they were literally like 3 rounds off losing the whole map and being out of the competition, and they turned it all around because of this exploit. So it was a crazy exploit, like really powerful. You know, had no solution to it, and then with the rivalries and everything, I still think just because of how absurd it is, the Wizinator still takes top. But I'm sitting above Sergio.
Yeah, Ben.
I think the question really comes down to the body, the governing body of CSGO esports didn't have anything in place to stop the cheating, so it's an exploitation of the rules or the...
Well, it'd be like the tournament in particular, like the tournament host who organised it, I guess, in this instance. That sort of was a bit of a controversy at the time because this was like one of the majors, so Valve didn't really step in. It was more the DreamHack, the actual organizer of the tournament, that had to make all the announcements and everything and go through the rule book. But they did, I guess, have justice, but then it just never got replayed.
The other thing I'm having issue with is I don't know much about CSGO at all. I don't know how much our listeners will know about CSGO, but just in my own personal feeling, 2 endurance marathon runners who are twins swapping to do an ultra marathon seems more impressive than a few guys sitting at their computer jumping on each other's head to win a...
This is boomer
online...
talk.
Let's not take away from the...
This is my mum
sport.
talking about esports. Oh, I just don't see why, you know, some boys clicking on the keyboards is very impressive.
No, not quite like that. Just an ultramarathon, the biggest ultramarathon potentially in the world, and 2 brothers cheat by pretending to be each other. Just seems to be a higher degree of notoriety and scandal than a major tournament for an esport event with one.
I guess the precedent is as well, it's like no one's really cheated like this in the Counter-Strike major ever since or before that either. Like everyone's just kind of followed the rules. So this is just the most scandalous moment in any Counter-Strike major. So it's pretty big, like, I don't know.
That does make
it's all relevant, or like a relative rather, to Counter-Strike. And that's why you need the context and like the rivalries. I'm sticking with just below the Wizinator is my pick, but hey, we choose together.
I would say
we're democracy.
It goes under Sergio. Not a lot under, but just a little bit under.
Well, could this be the first time in Wild World of Sports history that we
get scissors, we chop it in half,
or we've got the whiteboard's not super long tall ways, but width. We've got plenty of room. We could put it next to Sergio, and that they're at the same level.
Oh, that's a compromise. It's interesting. But are we just giving up on ranking at this stage? Like, if we're gonna admit that we're like gonna start putting things besides each other, it's like no, we have to have an attempt at.
We also have a tiebreaker here, where one of us says above.
Yeah, there's
Sergio,
3 of us.
One says below.
Yeah.
We
Well,
can have
good point.
Weigh in.
I'll stop sitting on the fence and trying to please everyone. I think this is below Sergio. Looking at how I explained it when we started the ranking, the pure cheating aspect, twins cheating is more wild than 2 guys jumping on each other and exploiting a glitch cheating. I think the story with all the background is more interesting than Sergio's background, notwithstanding the fire extinguisher salesman. He's one of my favorites we've had on the show.
Yeah.
But I still think it's just slightly below. Just.
Yeah, I guess there's other fun elements to the Sergio story. So, sure. All right. Below.
Okay. Fnatic Boost going below Sergio.
It's ironic that the boost got them so high up, yet put them right at the bottom of the leaderboard.
Well, we say right at the bottom. There's still plenty of room on the milder side. It's that we're not Chris Money making them in reverse, because Chris is way at the top. And this board, for context, you'll see it on Wild World of Sport, all our socials. That's where you can find us. Except, where are we still waiting to come out on?
No, we're everywhere. They're already established on all platforms. All
Except
ones starting
Google
with
Plus.
G. No, we are the biggest podcast account on Google Plus. Can confirm.
Not on Google Plus.
Not
We're the biggest not on Google
yet to
Plus.
be.
I think we can
soon.
make Carlin's claim. I don't think we can make your claim. But I guess that does it for the episode then. That was the wild story of the Fnatic Boost. Let us know in the comments. Send us a DM. Wherever you get your podcast, let us know if you think we ranked it in the right spot, if you thought this story was wild or mild. Find us at Wild World of Sport, wherever you get your podcast, whatever social pipe you prefer to use. I've been James Whybrow.
James's brother Ben, no relation.
I'm going to go with Mops, because that's what I was called in Counter-Strike. That's cool.
The cool gamer tag.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mops. Oh, thank you for joining us on our journey to find the wildest story from the world of sport.
Mwah. Any comments on the French? Why does Ben hate the French?
Ben, do you want to just
I
destroy
feel like that's
us?
a story for another day.
That's a whole episode. Whole episode. Okay.
Why?
But
Bonus
hating
content for our
the French
Patreon.
is a sport. I would agree. You can be pretty good at it too.